It's terrible. Oh, I see it live on YouTube.
Yep. Ready to go.
All right, good. So we'll call the meeting to order. Just kind of a background. This is our very first Zoom Economic Development Committee meeting. So we're going to give it a try and see how it goes and see if we're able to accomplish anything good. And if we can, then we'll move forward and hold these in a regularly scheduled slot, which would be the first, help me now, is it the first Monday or first Tuesday of the month? First Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. I think that's right.
Yep.
So we'll go back to a kind of a regularly scheduled meeting, assuming we can get something accomplished and something good out of these Zoom meetings. So the first actual legitimate piece of business we have is to approve the last published minutes. And Max was kind enough to send those out. And Max, when was the last official meeting?
Last official meeting, according to my records, was March 2nd of 2020.
Yep, I'm looking at it right here. That's correct. So has everybody had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think that's unanimous. Okay, great. So that approves the minutes. Hey, Max, thank you as always. So sometimes a thankless job, and you've done a great job for us. I guess, so I want to talk a little more about the delay that we've had for the last several months. And maybe I'm going to ask Max to kind of chime in here too, even though I've got a slot for him to give us an update. But Max, in terms of the things that you in the town and the Economic Development Committee were working on before the pandemic hit, are those still active, real projects, or do we have to revisit them, or you know what I'm just not sure where they stand right now, like the CEDs and things like that.
Right. Oh, do you mean the SETS project?
Yeah.
Okay. So first, I think literally a week after we did our last EDC meeting, we got our TIF officially approved by the state of Maine. So that's done. We got our thing, and now we're just waiting to see what the money looks like coming in.
Wow, that's great.
And then for SEDS, that's something that I was hoping we could actually talk about maybe a bit later. Okay. That is something that Bill Maypower and I do want to have Waldeboro start looking at, start thinking. I did find the Downtown Revitalization Master Plan from 2011. And I believe I sent that out a few months ago, I think. We can start looking at that and outlining our SEDS plan for that, because now we have the TIF money. We can start writing up the grants for. We can start deciding what we want to do, what's outdated, what we can do to update it, what scope we want to go with it. And coincidentally, because of COVID, there's actually been increased funding for EDA projects. Originally, those projects would provide a 50-50 match for these types of economic projects. But because of the emergency funding that's happened from COVID, the federal government's upped that to maybe an 80-20 match. Mm. So just as an example, over in Damerscott, who is going to be doing their big waterfront project with the bathroom, that's a $4 million project. Because they were able to tie it to a disaster back in 2017, 75% of it is being funded by an EDA project, by the EDA grant, which I helped with.
All right, Max.
And so Bill and I want to start doing the same thing here in Waldoboro, where we look at all the possible things and just get a very lumped project that hopefully we can get some good money for.
And so it doesn't necessarily have to be one of the ones that we've outlined, or does it?
I think we were focusing on the village plan.
Right.
Obviously, it can be any project. You know, something could pop up next week, and we can do a project from there. We wanted to do it, but it could be sewer expansion up to the industrial park. It could be, you know, if someone's selling a brand new piece of property on Route 1 and we want to turn it into a new industrial district, we can do that. You know, put some new buildings up there.
So think big, sounds like.
We can certainly
Yeah.
think big. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is one of those times where the federal government wants to get rid of money. And they're looking for any project that can promote economic development.
All right.
So is there a timetable, Max, that we need to be aware of?
It's hard to say. I think they have certain amounts for certain regions. Like, we're tied in with obviously New England, but we also are included in like Philadelphia, or not Philadelphia, Pennsylvania as well. So it's weird regions. And I mean, the example I gave earlier with Damerscada, that was a disaster from 2017. I don't know if everyone remembers that big October storm that knocked out all that power.
Oh, yeah.
I remember.
Yep.
And
that
flood.
That was the national emergency that had a dedicated fund to future resiliency projects.
Ah,
And those funds exist 3 years later.
yeah.
In fact, I'm looking at another town to try and have them do a similar project. I don't know how long the COVID money's going to last.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't want to rush a project. I'd rather get a good project. We got the TIF money, and we can bond the TIF money. That's what we should probably focus on.
Yeah. But if we can get matched, we should, there's nothing wrong with doing that.
It would be good to get more than 50%, I'd say.
Yeah, it really would, Max. And if we could tie it into something that might generate jobs or improve business.
I think one thing that Bill was hoping to do was something that the Narrows has sort of taken a step towards, and that's having the businesses already on Friendship Street, but also sort of developing that back area so you can have more businesses sort of down there and really develop that parking area that's privately owned right now, but trying to get something done there. I mean, we can include electric vehicle charging stations. I know that was something that was talked about a lot earlier in this community.
Right.
But, you know, thinking of some big projects to really bring people down into the village area is what we want to aim for with this plan. So if anyone didn't get the plan, just tell me and I'll send you a copy. But I want to just try and go through this and think of ways we can start addressing these items in the plan.
Can you send me a new one, Max? I'm sure it got buried in my email.
Yep.
Thanks.
I'll make a note of that.
I'm going to go to one thing that I know about, which is internet. I'm just going to say internet a lot. Any opportunity we have to add some public Wi-Fi to any of these spaces that has a free tier and a tier that people can sign in to pay for, that's not a very hard solution to deploy. And I'd be happy to donate time to figuring that out too.
You know, we had talked about that before. And we had talked about, remember, Bob, we were talking, and Jan, we were talking about, what's it called when you have, oh God, my
A
brain.
hotspot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hotspots or something. Now, you just mentioned something interesting, Ruben, that something where people could access it and pay for it. That's actually interesting too.
A lot of areas do that now. You've got a basic free tier. And, you know, during a tourist season or something, if you know a lot of people are coming and spending money, that's when you'd let up on it.
Yeah.
So you'd have to figure out what that flow is. What flow is that going to encourage people to spend money locally? And what areas is it worth having a basic tier, but an area where they might pay more for faster access? Let's go to like a marina. At the last CTC meeting, we talked about getting an access point down at, where all the boats and stuff are. That's an area where you would have something that's low power and free where people can park their cars, but something higher power and faster pointed out towards the water that people with, expensive vessels would log on to. And while we have our fishermen and our local people working, the stuff they want to do would be fine on that slower tier. But the people that are sleeping on their boat that might have some more income there, they're probably going to pay for enough speed to do things like stream movies and that entertainment stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how many people sleep on their boat because our tide goes out so far that not a lot of boats come in and just kind of.
And so that, I guess we need to sit down and draw that out. Like, is there anything within line of sight that might do that? Or is that a possibility? If, building it is not, this is not a this is not a tens of thousands dollar project.
Right. No, I know.
This equipment's a couple $100 per unit and then you wire it.
Right.
I was going to say it can certainly be added in, especially since we're promoting Waldoboro's tourism industry. But the thing about EDA money is that it's a lot of money, so they want to make sure. So there's going to be a lot of waiting for it. Like I'm going to use Damerscott again. Yeah. They got approval. They submitted the application, I think, in December, got approval in April, and are now just going out to bid for some of these parts of the project. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
So for what you're saying, if it's something that can be quick and easy and it's cheap, we don't have to include it if you think it's faster to do it another way.
Well,
we can do it. Yeah, go ahead, Ruben.
I think the key is to design it, come up with something practical, maybe in a couple of phases, and then you'll get your number. You'll figure out what it costs to deploy, because it might be that you build the simple piece of it up front, near your parking lots, your stuff on land, and the more advanced version, the expansion of that might be part of that larger project. This stuff is modular, so you can add these building blocks as you go. You can make it as big or as small as you want to make it.
Ruben?
Yeah.
What kind of download speeds would you be looking at for something like that?
So that depends on the range. I can, so reading the side of a box, you can buy a commercial access point that will do a gig both ways through the air. That speed, as in 1,000 megabit. But that speed depends on line of sight and distance to the device.
Well, if you're just sitting in the parking lot at the town landing, certainly that gives you sufficient range to get that kind of download speed, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, at the very least, you could be in the hundreds. To give you an idea, just in my house, I have an access point up on the second floor. So I'm going through, 10 inches of drywall, a bunch of wood, and my phone in my basement, 50 feet away, can still get I think I get 200 by 50.
Wow.
And that's just on a relatively cheap cell phone. It also depends on the equipment you have. So those high speeds are, you have the shiniest new iPhone and you can see the wireless access point. And when you're inside a car, there's other stuff like glass and all these things that interfere with the signal. And I could go on all day. But my point is, you can make something serviceable that someone, say, in their RV, to use an extreme example, or a pop-up camper, could make some meaningful use of that speed as long as the internet feeding the device is fast enough. And that's just infrastructure. That's working with your ISPs and figuring out how to hook it up. That's where my time will be more useful to you guys, which I'm happy to do that if it helps the town.
That's actually something to think about, maybe not with the EDA project by itself, but maybe as a separate thing, because RVs are going to be, and pop-up campers are going to be the way people go for a while until a lot of this gets in control.
And that's true for small businesses and stuff too.
Right.
Do we have a feel for who's having struggles with those kinds of things? Is this something that some kind of workshop might be helpful with?
You mean connectivity?
Yeah, this is how you make Wi-Fi work in your business.
No, we don't have that. And actually, it's a new context now because a lot of people might be not accessing the business indoors. Mm-hmm. They might be, if they're lucky, having some service outside, maybe, so.
I guess what I'm asking is providing that data, as a service of this committee, would that be helpful to the small businesses in the area? Would that help them do some stuff they can't do now?
I don't know.
It couldn't hurt.
I'd be happy to talk to people about that. We can make time for that. I just don't know what the interest is. It's something that I would need to schedule time for, and they would be examples. But if the town has more going on.
So I think instead of kind of tying, let's save this idea.
Yep.
Because we're going to talk about new ideas later on.
Okay.
And just to throw this out there, but maybe you tie that into a recharging station.
Absolutely.
For EVs.
Yep.
And now you make it a project that's sizable for proper funding.
Mm-hmm.
So there's other ways to skin the cat that maybe could tie in some other activities that we're looking at, at doing. So
cool.
Anyway,
just to finish off I don't know if this is under town update or just what I had to do, but public transportation survey. Thank goodness it ended when it did.
Yeah.
It closed off, I think, just as the state was shutting down and people were starting to not like the idea of being in close quarters. So I'd say it was good. I think I had 505 responses the day of closing, and it still lingered on a bit afterwards. I think I got maybe a dozen or so more surveys coming in later.
That's a pretty strong response.
Yep. It was about a fifth, I think. Yep. Fifth responses. Overall majority would say no, they wouldn't use the service. But there was, I believe, 40% of people who responded, who said they would use it in some form. And even a lot of people who said no said that they are getting, what most people would say in the surveys are, I am getting older. I do want to think about this. I'm just not using it now. And that's fine. As I said when it was all starting, it's not like we were going to have a bus running this year. We're definitely not going to have a bus running this year. And since then, I've also spoken with the Waldo Community Action Program, because they do operate a bus service in Rockland. And I reached out to them. I showed them these results. They are very interested of including us in their shuttle, at least to Damariscotta. But just like me, they've kind of had to put everything on hold because no one wants to take a bus right now.
Yeah.
But when they do start things up, they want to include us. And let me think. I'm not going to proceed forward until everything's gotten a bit more calmer. I do want to do a public transportation forum, but it's just not a good time to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that was that. And then there's a few items. Streetlights, they're installed. Streetlights are installed. Hooray.
All of them, Max, including the ones that they had overlooked?
So that is the one thing. Even though we got the new lights, there were 3 lights that they didn't retrofit. What happened was CMP gave the coordinates, but they also said there's this light on this road. So when they went out and looked at all the streetlights, for example, they said there was 3 on Elm Street. There are no streetlights on Elm Street. But what they did find was 3 streetlights on Glynn Street, and Glynn Street didn't have its name on there. So they were told there were 110 lights. And apparently CMP had 3 lights that they've never been billing us for.
Ah.
So once Realterm hit 110 lights, they said, oh, that's all the lights in Waldoboro. Come to find that there were 3 lights that were not installed because we actually had 113 lights.
Got it.
And this doesn't include 2 lights that are at the school. Those are owned by the school. And then there's 2 lights on Atlantic Highway that are privately owned as well. But the 3 lights that weren't retrofitted was one at the Cross and Depot Street intersection, where the hunting club, hunting association intersection is.
Yep.
On Depot Street, once you cross the railroad tracks, there's that one light that didn't get fixed. That didn't get changed. And then there was one on Miller Street, Miller, next to the VFW.
Mill Street.
Mill Street.
Mill. Yeah.
I'm all over the place tonight. That was hidden in the trees, so they didn't find that one.
Oh, gee.
So are we planning to go back and do those 3?
Well, now there's also 2 more light issues. One is right in front of the town office, and one's over at the intersection at Moody's, where the lights have been dimmed or just turned off. And we're having Hedstrom check those lights to see if it's a simple workmanship issue, if it's the light itself, or if there's some wiring or fuse issue. Depending on what issue it is, we're probably not going to change those 3 lights, because we were told it was done.
Right.
And so when budget season came around and we had to start cutting everything because of COVID,
yeah,
we weren't adding any money to the lights. So, and we also have to start paying off the lights as well. The first payment's going to be in November, I believe. So unless we are getting free fixtures, we're probably not going to be doing those 3 lights as well. And that's just going to wait until maybe next budget cycle.
But they did install 110 lights.
They did install 110 lights.
That's what we paid for.
And we've already seen a huge dramatic drop in savings. I know they
drop
said
in savings.
Drop in costs, huge savings.
Thank you.
I think they were projecting it was going to be 75%. But compared to the few months, what we've had for the past few months since the complete installation, compared to what we had last year in those same months, I believe we had about 69.4% savings.
Wow. That's real money, right?
That's real money.
Yeah.
And that more or less pays the financing costs until we actually own the things, right?
Unbelievable.
There's a few $100s that I'm not too sure about, but again, I won't be able to know until April of next year when it should be done. When I'll have a full year's worth of bills.
You know what would be really interesting to see? I remember when we put the solar array in at the transfer station, that there was a discussion about peak loads, and that if you could stay under a peak value, there was a significant utility savings by never hitting that peak or going over that peak. And
Right.
I'd be curious now with the solar array plus the street lights, if we actually keep ourselves under that peak value, whatever that was.
Well, I believe the peak value was more for the municipal buildings and not for the streetlights. I think those are 2 separate accounts.
Oh, are they? Oh, I thought they were on this. All the meters were. It's not this. Okay.
Well, I believe they're 2 separate accounts.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, all right.
But
All right.
I'm trying to think their town items. Well, actually, coincidentally, while you brought up town and all that, we did get a grant from Keep Maine Healthy. This is a state program to help towns get more, do more safety measures in COVID. We got $14,000, and we're going to use that money to try and convert the bathrooms to be more motionless and touchless. So that might help with the peak performance.
Yep. All right.
Good.
I mean, the other items I could probably bring up later. You had some things about the planning board, so I could probably just go on when that.
Yeah, why don't you go on and give us an update on that? I know AD Gray's had some action, I guess.
Yep. So the first thing I'll go on is the solar farm that got approved in March, again before everything crazy happened. So that's going to be, and they've got all their state permits. And I actually got an email this week saying they're going to start construction and cutting and getting everything going within the next week or two. So we will have that 3.3 megawatt farm up and running by the spring.
Is that the one?
Oh,
Yeah, the location.
On North Nobleboro Road. Yep.
It's the old Reed farm.
The old Reed.
Okay, yeah.
Have they already pre-sold that power to somebody around here, or are they still looking for customers?
They're still looking for customers. They do not want residential, even if it's like apartment buildings. They want commercial and institutional people first.
Okay.
They have told me that there are certain people who have already bought it, but they are still looking for some people. And I have pointed them to certain possibly interested people in town. But I'm just not saying any of that because they've asked for some discretion, and then I want to respect that wish. So there was that. On Atlantic Highway, the Hillside Collision, they had a small little expansion so that they can have 2 painting stations. I'm just trying to go in order.
yep.
June had a lot of July had a lot of work. We had Matt Moody come in to get approval for boat storage where the Hendrickson roofing was.
Oh, I wondered about where that was. Yep.
Squire Motors from Camden that same night got approval to use the Spofford chicken farm that's on Old Route 1 to store some vehicles overnight for their shop in Camden. And it's only going to be them going in and out of that. It's not like they're going to have customers doing it. It's going to be an employee dropping it off and then them going back to Camden. The Waldoboro Food Pantry. I don't think I need to explain that one too much. And then a week later, we had AD Gray. So we were approached. So at the beginning of this year, Volunteers of America came to Julie to talk about a community navigator position and trying to help with all that. And during the talks, AD Gray was brought up. They, for a few months, have then been interested in AD Gray and have taken some tours. And in June, they said, we have this idea. We want to turn it into senior housing. And we wanted to see what the public said first. So we did a pre-application for them on July 15th. The recording is online for anyone interested. And I think it's been well received. I haven't had too many neighbors complain or have issue with it. There have been some people concerned about whether it's going to be senior or senior with other low-income groups involved. But in general, it seems like it's been more welcome. Bob, what's your interpretation on how it's been?
I agree. I think it's the few people I've spoken to haven't raised any material objections to the concept that they've presented to us. And aren't you setting up a meeting later in this month with them and the public, Max?
Right. Volunteers of America is setting up sort of an informal get-to-know-you type meeting. It won't be done by the committee or anything. It's just going to be them saying, we're here. If you have any questions, feel free to pop in and ask us anything, and we can answer as best as we can. I think that will be sometime at the end of the month, maybe September 30th. They'll want everything publicized when that happens.
Have they chosen a venue yet?
It's likely going to be here at the town office.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of other venues are being, we'll have to take those extra precautions and also have to charge a good amount.
Can we do it outside?
Well, you mean outside at the town office or just at an outside venue?
No, outside of the town office.
I think what they were planning was more of just people dropping in and out throughout the 2 hours they're going to have it, and also set up sort of a remote option so people can just come in at any time and ask their questions. I think it's just going to be in the conference room, but I might try and have them using that outside area just outside the conference room as well.
Hopefully they'll attract some press to ask questions as well.
That's a good idea, Bob.
It'll appear in the local papers.
Yeah, good idea.
Max, do you know if it's a locked facility or not?
If what's a locked facility?
The senior, what they plan to do with AD Gray?
Locked facility.
Yeah, you know, with seniors, sometimes when there's Alzheimer's and things like that involved.
No, it's not a nursing home. It's actually senior apartments.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's independent living facility. It's an independent
perfect.
facility.
Okay, good. And the other question I have is the property around there now has tennis courts and some other activities. Are those remaining, or are those lost to the town, or what happens?
The tennis courts actually used federal dollars to build, so we need to actually, and that's something I'm actually going to get to a little bit later, what the EDC will probably need to do. And that's, we're probably still going to keep the tennis courts. We either have to get a new recreation field for those courts, or we just have to keep the courts under our ownership, essentially.
Okay. All right.
But that's it for planning board items, I believe. Well, actually, the planning board this month doesn't have any applications, but they are going to hold a required public hearing for the new land use ordinance, which it's just the brand new land use ordinance to replace our current one, creating a floodplain ordinance, and to put AD Gray in the historic village.
When is that scheduled for, Max?
That is scheduled a week from tonight on the 16th.
December 16th?
Yep.
Can you say it again, what that's going to talk about, what the changes, what you're talking about there?
So our 2018 comprehensive plan called for a brand new land use ordinance. So this ordinance that's being proposed would repeal what we currently have and replace it with this brand new ordinance. And then we'd be having the floodplain ordinance as a separate document. And then the third item is we would place the AD Gray School into the historic village district.
Okay.
What time will that start?
What time it'll start? 6 p.m.
6 p.m.?
Yep.
In the conference room?
Conference room. There's also a remote option.
Can we get documents ahead of that public meeting? Can we?
They are available on the town website.
Ooh, that's exciting. That's exciting.
Yep. Should be
Max, well played.
Should be under the news and events column. It's the first item, or row. Should be the first item.
So next Wednesday night.
Yep. The thing I will say of Julie couldn't be here tonight. She's been here since 6:30 a.m. She's probably very overworked at this point.
Oh yeah.
Something that did come up in the AD Gray committee was the idea that we should have a committee going through all of the town-owned properties and finding possible uses, alternative uses for them, whether that is some type of recreation or possibly developing it for some commercial or residential use, or just selling it to
I'd
someone.
love to be on. I'd love to be on that committee.
I think what Julie had in mind was maybe giving it to the EDC as
Even better, even better. I'd love to do that. That's such a good idea.
I will make sure to pass that on and tell her, because there are.
The rest of you guys agree with that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great.
It's fine. Ah,
Well, we won't get into those properties tonight because I've already taken up.
No, but the good thing is that is something we can do remotely.
right.
That is.
Because we can share, Max, we can share screens, right?
Yep.
So you could actually put up the list and we could go through it one by one. I mean, we could do that remotely.
What I was going to do was I was going to take the list that I was given. I'm going to, similar to what I've done with the TIFs and everything, I'm going to get each lot and sort of highlight the ones that are town owned. Actually, I was probably going to do it using the GIS map. Just plot the lots that we do need to go through.
That's a good idea, Max.
Great idea.
But I think that is a good chunk of everything I've been doing.
Let me just ask you, Max, in a general sense, the impact of COVID-19. I know one of the members here sent that question in email, basically, what's the stat, how has COVID-19 impacted the town of Waldoboro in terms of businesses? I mean, do we have a sense for that yet? Do we have an overall feeling?
The other impact I think we should hear about is was on people, on our, because there was an impact on food insecurity. There was a lot of impacts.
So in terms of my department, I don't know what the overall impact's been. I can tell you in terms of volunteering at the food pantry here, there's always over 70 families going to get some food. I can tell you that.
And Max, at the height of the epidemic, there were 120 families.
120,
getting food.
And that's why they wanted to move over to the Medomic, so they can at least continue that one way in and out method they have, because they needed a bigger facility. They were not going back to the professional building with how small that area was.
Yeah.
They needed a dedicated area just for them.
So I've signed up to be a member of the food pantry's board of directors.
Good to hear.
And we're clearly not there now, but I think the long-term objective of that group has to be to get our own building and own it, and have it somewhere, hopefully on Route 1 or in the village, somewhere real central and easy access. Because I think that's a big impact, and I think where we are now is wonderful, and the people are so generous. But we can't just keep moving all the time, right. And at some point we've got to have our own place, and so that's kind of what my long-term objective for that group is: to get some find some funding. So any of you who know any ideas of how we can get funding. To help with the building, that would be terrific.
All right.
Great idea, Jan.
It's years down the road, but you got to start thinking about it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and depending on how unstable things keep being, we may end up with more disasters in the future, which we have to think about. I was curious, Max, who is in charge of disaster planning in the town?
Kyle Santherson.
Yeah.
Carl is? Okay.
Kyle,
right, Kyle.
I mean, in terms of other impacts and businesses, it's pretty much just whatever anyone else can see and read in the newspaper. That's pretty much it. I mean, it hasn't, I wouldn't say it's really stopped anything for people coming in here. And I think a lot of building permits have actually been happening throughout this entire endeavor. And in terms of businesses, I know it's slowed down some because of financing concerns and risks.
Yeah.
But
I know that you can say there's certain strata. So tourism took a bad hit.
Mhm.
So, Topsail Farm,
Right.
for example, all the events, anybody who does weddings or events, so catering, Shelley's Flowers, I mean, all of that stuff. And
All the galleries.
all the galleries. I know Philippe's is, on the market for sale.
It's been sold.
What's pending?
Oh, and
Sale pending, yeah.
Oh, actually, it's a beautiful property. What they've done.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's just amazing. Restaurants, food has evolved and is challenged, but and farms are challenged, but they're doing well because in Maine, people just looked at the grocery store shelves being empty and then went bloop to farms and food producers. And it's just they lost all their restaurant business, all their commercial business. Stores, we don't have a lot of stores in town, but so it is a challenge, I think. I know our maritime guys are really hurting. So, but construction, landscaping, anything outdoors did well, could continue. It's been, I think also the emotional hit to people just to have something like this, a shock in a sense. A lot of people are just kind of not knowing. There's so much unknowing about the future and so much that no one's in control of. I think that really hits people hard,
Yeah.
And knowing what the future's going to bring. But I think people have pivoted when they're able to pivot. It's just challenging.
All right. So, hey, Ruben, any updates? I'm guessing no, but any updates on the communication side?
I mean, since March, we've had, I guess our biggest development is we have a new signed franchise agreement for Chapel Road. And last update from Spectrum was they have pole permitting sent out. They've paid people to do that work. And now we're waiting on CMP to drive that road and list off what needs to be moved before Spectrum can go and run cable on that road. So that's been sort of our focus. Now that that's done, we're working on some additional phases and next steps for the rest of the town.
Awesome.
Great.
Oh, good news. All right. So old business, I don't think there's anything really. I think we've covered, Max has given us a good update on things that are going on in the town. I always like to, I guess I kind of wonder now if our brochures are still relevant or not, but hopefully they are. And that leads us to the last category, which is, new business. And so I kind of like what Ruben was saying earlier, and I got to ask Max if he thinks that combining a charging station with a internet access, or what would you call it, like a hotspot, if that's a play, if we can find property along Route 1 that we could do that with, do you think that would be a good SEDS play?
Yeah, that's fine. Whether that's through this downtown master plan or through a different grant program. I think CMP's just announced another level 2 charging station grant program. I'd hope level 3s are sometime in the future, and hopefully it's at a time when the town can invest in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can do a hotspot EV charging station combo.
I remember us when we first talked about a charging station. One of the things was, what are people going to do while they're waiting for their car to charge, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, if you can make that the focus of the thing, it gives people a reason to pull in. Yeah. Anyway, something to think about. I'm not sure. I guess we're going to talk about SEDS on the next get together, Max.
Mm-hmm. What?
Are we going to talk about this? Where you want to head on SEDS at our next meeting?
Yeah, I think tonight was more maybe getting back into things. You know, we're all back now. We're starting to get back into the rhythm, I think. And so maybe next month we can start looking at, you know, hopefully by next month people have looked at the downtown master plan, and you know, it doesn't have to be word for word everything, but just looking through like the big investments that could be made, taking one or two pieces out and saying, you know, this is definitely something we got to do right there. This is what's going to help downtown a lot, and just start developing a concept plan is essentially what I would like to try and do next time. Like, even if it's just doing bullet points, that's probably something I would like to do next time to move forward on the SEDS project.
You know what, Max? If we could talk about town-owned property that is between the village and
Route 1.
Yeah.
Oh,
if
yeah.
we talk about that, that would make sense to talk about in the context of the SEDS thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And by that meeting, I'll
you were going to say something?
Was?
Yeah, I saw your name pop up. I don't know if you were getting ready to say something.
I think I just moved something on my desk. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
What I was going to say is I can also go through this town-owned property list, see what we got, and then you guys can, as Jen said, just sort of combine the two purposes together and think, how can these town-owned properties help with the downtown plan?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
What is the selectmen? Are you guys working on anything interesting or anything you'd like to tell us about? I feel like we've been so far apart.
Well, I missed the meeting last night. I had an appointment I had to go to. So, but there's ongoing conversations on Sylvania that are privileged in executive session, but there's discussions on that. There are, just bear with me just a second here.
I think last night it was mostly just talking about local issues, like what's going to be on the town warrant.
Oh.
Yeah, we are coming up with a list of things we would like to get people's opinions on. The idea is that the next voting in November is going to be huge, with lots of turnout. And so it could be an ideal time to sort of poll people's sentiments on things, as well as pose questions that could or would be binding. One of the potentially binding questions might be about AD Gray, and whether or not the town is interested in doing what Volunteers of America is proposing. That's something that that probably will be on the ballot. These won't be part of the ballot that is put into the machine. These will be something the town prints up and then counts after the official voting with the state and national election is completed, because of the time element involved in counting all those things. But they're looking for ideas. If you have ideas about what you'd like to see opinions expressed on, this is the time to do it, so that it can be put in front of the voters for an opinion poll, if you will, and input.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, that's something Julie is really pushing hard on.
I think right now we've had at least 500 absentee ballot requests so far. And we are 2 months away from the election.
Yeah, and you can get your absentee ballot online. I did it. I went online, applied for the ballot, and I heard from Julie 12 hours later. Confirming that they gave me a confirmation number and assuring me that the ballots would be mailed out.
Yeah,
so
me too.
It really works.
Yeah, it works really well.
Yep.
Smooth.
So
are we?
I wonder. I'll just throw this out there as kind of a against the wall and see if it sticks. But would it make sense to do a list of SEDS projects and ask the town folks how they would prioritize them?
I wouldn't do that one just for this election. And I'm saying that for two reasons. One, I'm probably going to be one of the people who are counting all these ballots. And two, I don't think it's a good idea to really present something to people unless you have a better way of explaining it to them. I think if we present them 4 different projects and overword the question and they don't know what these will even entail, I don't think we're going to get a good response. I imagined how this is going to turn out. I imagine this will probably happen again, maybe in July or next November as well, to get more on how well there's like feedback from town. So I think I would imagine maybe in July next year, we could probably do the same thing. And by that time, we'd have a good SEDS project in the works.
Yeah.
We could just do it then too.
All right. All right.
And remember, we did prioritize our list already months ago, on what we wanted to work on first. And Julie bought into that. So that was actually last year sometime we did that. So.
And, worst case, we can wait until the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission does another ASK grant, and then we just do mail out surveys again.
Yeah. Yep. I think they were talking about that, weren't they, Max, at the last meeting?
I think they're just doing another round right now, actually.
Yeah, right.
I'm just thinking out loud, Jan, about the food pantry. They might want to think about incorporating that into the medical arts project at some point. The community
that Julie's working on,
that complex that hopefully will be realized someday.
I thought she was considering the food pantry actually.
She was. Yep.
I'll ask her the question though.
Okay.
I know at one time we discussed that. In general, we talked about incorporating that.
Yep.
Did Julie, do you know, Bob, if she's been able to ID an area where they would like to locate that?
Yes, it's back of Miller Ballfield, across from Tucker Chevrolet, that big, huge field area that the town owns.
Yeah.
And we've been discussing route access from Route 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's hopefully where it would go if it goes anywhere.
Yeah, okay. That'd be terrific.
Yeah, this COVID thing has thrown a wrench at that. We just don't know when we're going to be able to start talking about it again.
That's pretty much the summary for all of it.
Yeah, really. Everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Does anybody have any other new projects that they want to talk about or new ideas that they want to throw out? Okay, so then let me just ask everyone, is this an effective format?
Remote participation?
Yeah.
It works for me.
I see value in this.
Okay, good. That's the question. Is there value in doing these?
Totally.
Way better than kicking the can, right, Bob?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I agree.
Especially now, since what you said, Max, about that there are funds being released on the federal level to help us deal with COVID and the implications and the ramifications of it.
Right, but I mean, this whole thing we're fine with. I don't know if it's applicable to EDC, but this is all because the governor did her executive order that says remote participation is allowed.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because beforehand, committees weren't allowed to do these meetings because of the freedom of information.
I know. Right.
Which was, I think, stupid, but whatever.
So I didn't know we had I knew that we were just putting together a YouTube channel for the town, but I had no idea we did live streaming on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That's great. And it's like it's just like what we did with the Lincoln TV, right?
Yep. You can do a YouTube search for Waldoboro Economic Development Committee meetings, and you'll see the videos.
Yes. Thanks to Ruben for getting all the equipment And
Yay.
and me being insistent on doing this in November of last year,
Yeah,
criticism, we got this going the moment everything hit the fan.
huge, Ruben.
There were a lot of people involved, and I think Max has done the heavy lifting.
You got the what, 2 or 3 pieces of equipment that were necessary for this. I thought it was a whole complicated thing. You just came and said, no, here's this, here's that, use this software, you're good.
Ah, the power of Amazon.
I wasn't going to say anything, but
Oh no, I'm very open. Google and Amazon and occasional poor judgment has gotten me very, very far.
All right, well, I see by the clock on my computer that it's 8:01. So a 1 hour meeting, that's just about perfect, I think.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation. Max, I'm sorry to say you got kind of all the action items until the next meeting.
hopefully
So October 6th at 7 o'clock.
I haven't got my calendar in front of me, but if that's right.
Yeah, that's the first Tuesday in October.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it's September. Wow, what happened?
Yeah.
All right, everybody, I'm adjourning the meeting. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You guys said October 7th?
October 6th.
October 6th. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was also confused about. Never mind. All right.
Got it.
Thanks all.
Good.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.